G'day friends, welcome to day 15 of Mermay 2024. I am gonna take my energy down like 20 notches because I've been chatting to Steve for a long time and my voice feels tired. Does that make sense? I have a little topic of conversation today. It's just a really brief little chat we might have. Also, the mermaid that I'm doing, I believe was inspired by a little bit Tim Burton-ish. I'm not quite sure. She's ooky kooky spooky, a little bit villainous. And it was really actually a pose that I wanted to draw. I liked the idea of having her elbows really tucked in behind her waist and having her arms kind of like out with big claw-like hands. I don't know. I like how she turned out. She's a little bit different from me. And I think she also looks like the villain in Enchanted, but I forgot her name. What's the girl's name in Enchanted? Giselle. Oh, Giselle. I forgot the woman's name. Played by Susan Sarandon. Anyway, let's get into the topic. I'll read you the bullet point because it's so random. And then we'll talk about that. It just says, my mindset about creativity and work that requires creativity. Waiting for it to strike, question mark? No. I have to do it anyway. There's a discipline to it and a belief that it will happen you need to have. So all of that to say, I think what I meant was, do I believe that inspiration has to strike for you to create good work? No, I don't believe that. Everyone is inherently creative. I do believe that. These are my personal beliefs. And that, what does it say? Oh, there's a discipline to it and a belief that it will happen. So I think you can kind of set yourself up to work creatively, and I think you can, do great work without inspiration striking. And I think there is a belief that you have to have that you will be able to do that irrespective of your muse showing up, or if, you have great new ideas and fresh creativity. I think this all really relates to how, when I first started, I was thinking, in order to be successful in creating content that, creative arts content, art journaling, painting, and, even things like photography and stuff like that, whatever I was sharing with you that was my creative art passion, I wanted to create content, and I felt like for it to be successful, it had to be new and groundbreaking and never been seen or done before. It had to show a great level of skill. Had to be super creative, had to be inspirational, had to be all these things, all these buzzwords that I would see all over the internet. And it felt like a really tall order. It felt like it's kind of impossible. Like, how am I supposed to do all of that every week? Showing up to YouTube. I don't believe I did videos every week in the beginning. I forgot how infrequent they were, but they were really few and far between. I think I did Tag Tuesdays for a while. But yeah, those 2017 schedule was really off. We've been doing weekly videos for a couple of years now, maybe a few years. It's been great. I love the weekly videos. I love seeing you at least once a week. Every day this month has been great too, because we can talk about all these fun topics. But when I first started, I felt like that's what I had to do and that would be successful. Just felt like a lot. And I think the thing that was scaring me more than anything was, was I going to be creative enough to come up with new ideas all the time? Like, what if I ran out of ideas? I had this scarcity mindset with work that I was like, I'm just going to have 3 good journal pages in me, and then what next? Like, how is it going to happen after that? And very quickly let go of that. I figured instead of trying to prove that I could come up with new, fresh things all the time, I would just show you realistically what I was doing and the things that I was enjoying, because I felt like there'd be more longevity in that. If it was real and authentic and this is what I was loving and enjoying at the time, then I surely would love sharing it and enjoying it with others. And I have to say that years later, that has been my recipe for longevity, is to keep showing what I am actually enjoying at the time. And it means sometimes I'm working on journals that some people don't like. Some people don't love the jumbo journals. Some people don't love the 5-year journal. Some people don't love the travel journals. But I go to whichever one I'm feeling like I want to go to, and it has really led me to here. I mean, I'm still going. So I feel like there was longevity in that. And I didn't feel like I had to sit and plan 6 years worth of fresh ideas that would be great and creative every single week. we do lots of creative things, but to varying degrees, right? And I thought I had to be inspirational for people to want to watch, but the reality was some people were just inspired by how I would talk about a journal. Like I would turn on a video and just say, I love journaling so much for 30 minutes, and that would inspire them to open their journal. And I would think, that's crazy. Like why would you do that? Wouldn't you want to open it after you'd seen me do something good in there? And then I would do these videos that would take weeks to film and edit and cut together and look pretty, and then no one would tell me that they'd open their journal after that. They'd be like, oh, it was a nice video to watch. And I would think, huh. So I couldn't even control what people were inspired by. It seemed like the less effort I put in, the more inspired they were. Like it was confusing. It's all really subjective too. And I thought, well, that makes sense because when I watch different content, I can be inspired to pick up my journal watching a photographer talk about how excited they are to shoot something. I can want to get involved in my creativity because someone else is excited about theirs. And so I figured that like if I can be inspired and people don't even know that they're doing it, then that's probably going to happen this way. And I shouldn't concern myself with being inspirational to people. It actually felt like such a burden to feel like I had to get on here and inspire people. If it happens, that is so lucky. Hooray for me. You know, it's just gravy on top of an ice cream cake. It's the whipped cream on top, I should say, of a sundae. And that would be a bonus, but it should not be my intention because what an unbelievably tall order to ask for every single day. That I show up to work at my desk and, you know, share on social media, whether it's YouTube or Instagram. So I felt like that was something that really set me up for success earlier on too. But then I did have this idea like, well, what if I run out of ideas? Again, didn't really matter because what I did have was desire to do my creative arts. I loved to open my journals and play. I loved to draw, loved to paint, loved to do all these things. Take photos, print photos, put them in, make layouts, make beautiful things. I had a desire for it, so I didn't need to have a new idea. Sometimes they would just show up. Sometimes halfway through, I'd be making something, I'd think, oh, what if I just cut that like that and made a little opening there and then folded it backwards? All of these, you know, creative frenzies would kind of strike, and I would say, what if I did that? And I would just let myself do it. And that's the other thing that I think is interesting about this kind of topic is, do you have to wait for inspiration to strike? Not at all. I think a lot of the time it strikes once you've already started. Or sometimes it strikes at the most inopportune moment when you're laying in bed and you have got a notepad near you and you just write 2 words down because it's the middle of the night and you're like, oh, okay, sausage pencils. And then you wake up and you're like, what did I mean by that? I have no idea what that means. Can't make sense of any of it. And then so inspiration struck and it didn't matter at all. And so I also let go of this idea that I had to be inspired, that my muse had to show up for me to be able to do good work. I thought it doesn't need to. And do you know what? That's great. Because if I was waiting on her to show up every 5 minutes, I would never get anything done. Because she doesn't show up as often as you would think, especially since this is a 9 to 5 for me. This is my full-time job. This is how I pay my bills, and I do my art journaling, and, you know, we have the whole JLB Creative universe over here, and this is what it is. You would be shocked to know how many times I am not inspired with a creative thought that popped into my head. What I am actually is disciplined. I am disciplined to show up to my job just like I would any other job. You know, you clock in. I clock in at my desk here. I have all my stuff here. I get to work on it. I open the pages. I get my hands moving in there. I do seemingly menial tasks like putting stickers on a page or, you know, printing off some photos. And one thing starts to lead to another. And sometimes I will finish after an hour having done seemingly nothing. Like just sticking, cutting, pasting, scribbling. But there's an hour of my life that just kind of de-stressed me. There is parts of my journal that are now more fully fleshed out with very real things that I love and I enjoy and I put in there. And sometimes I'll take a photo of it and I'll put it on Instagram, and then part of my job is done as well. I've shared on social media for the day. And that is a part of the routine of being creative for your job. And that's something that obviously not a lot of people are going to care about because it's kind of relative to me and my peers in this space. But hopefully if some of them are listening, you don't need inspiration to do something good. You don't need it to even start. A lot of the time it will show up, and even when it doesn't, you can still move forward and get from A to Z with what you were going to do anyway. It's nice to have fresh ideas. It's nice to be able to, bring something new to the table. But I would just say take a load off. Like don't burden yourself with any of it. If you want to be an inspiration to people, I think most people are inspired by whatever is real and authentic, and you showing up and giving that authenticity. I think trying to do anything other than that is doable. I just don't think it's a good recipe for longevity. And I think if you want anything to last, you have to be thinking of, the future of it and where you want to end up. And I think, especially with something like this, I mean, it's creative. Some days I just don't even feel like drawing, and it's not anything to do with, how I feel about work or how I feel about journaling or anything. Some days are days I just don't pick up a pencil and draw. It's kind of rare because I do enjoy it, but it happens, and I don't feel guilty about that. I don't try to tell myself that it was a waste of a work day. I mean, yeah, all my thoughts about it have really been to kind of set myself up successfully to be able to, be in this space and share with you as much as I can and enjoy that and build a business around it. But also to to do that effectively. Like you always have these performance reviews in other jobs. And sometimes I think when I stop and I take stock of all the things that I'm doing here, it's the same thing. I kind of review myself and how effective my strategies are, or like how good my time management skills are, if I'm doing the things I say I'm going to do, if there's integrity with what I've set out for to do and I've actually delivered on that, like these daily videos. I'm always kind of examining all of that and reviewing it. And I think, way back in the beginning, these things really freed me. And if I was going to give advice to someone about to do the same thing, I would say inspiration is lovely, and when the muse strikes, it's lovely, but you do not need to wait for it. You don't need to wait for that to show up. You can just enjoy yourself and start. And a lot of the times it'll come along the way. And as far as being creative, I think everyone is inherently creative. I think get your hands moving, get into it, believe that you are, and then show up with what you got. I don't think there's much virtue in, measuring how creative you are, or especially up against somebody else. There will always be someone with more skill and seemingly more creativity than you, but you've all got your own like individual brains and imaginations. And so no matter how skilled someone else is, someone is always going to be more fascinated with what is going on in your head than somebody else's. And this is why I like social media, because we can share that with each other. And I always get really fascinated. As someone that teaches a lot, I love to see how it's all interpreted, and then to get a good understanding of how everybody else's brain works. Like, that's just a thing I'm fascinated with as a person. It's why I watch so much YouTube, because people put a lot of themselves out on YouTube and I can just watch for free. But I'm just a curious person. I like to know how people are. And then let me just read this bullet point, so I'm really just not leaving you hanging here. Yeah, that's just my mindset about it. You're creative when you just show up, whether you've been inspired to do something crazy, fresh, and new or not. Just do it anyway. Do it anyway. Let the creative frenzies take you where they take you. If they strike, if they don't, have a great time just doing it, because it's probably a passion that you enjoy doing anyway. I don't think people need to be told this. I think this is very specifically what I say to myself when it gets hard to work, when it gets hard to show up, because I think, am I really going to sit down and do my 800th, video talking about this journal? And yes, I am. I'm actually going to do it because I've told myself I got to show up and do it anyway. It's a part of the business. It's a part of the way it goes. And, sometimes I feel like I might have just said the exact same thing I said 4 months ago, but there might be new people watching, and I don't really know. And it's not really my job to know exactly who's watching. All I know is that whether I feel particularly creative or, full of fresh ideas, whether I feel like my inspiration has struck or not, I'm showing up, I'm getting my hands to work, and I can do it without all of that. I can do it just because I say I want to do it, and I'm going to have a good time for an hour at my desk. And it's really a real blessing at the end of the day that I get to do that as a part of my job, because if not that, what, computers? Data entry for 6 hours a day, I would die. I couldn't do it. So I'll take it. But it did free me. It freed me a lot to not have to worry about how many fresh ideas I could have, or if I'd run out of ideas. You'll never run out of ideas. If you're just telling yourself, I'm going to do what I enjoy doing, I'm going to share it with people, you'll never run out of ideas. Maybe you won't have the best ones in the world, and if you're telling yourself you have to, that's a hard metric to live up to, but you can also just tell yourself not to. You can just say, I'm going to have really standard, simple ideas, and then you'll be successful. But yeah, your expectations play a factor in it. But I don't think you need to wait for inspiration to strike. And I think you can develop a routine. I think you can develop some discipline. I think you can clear some of the human garbage layers that we put on top of ourselves. The thing like, well, I'm just not feeling that great today, so I'm probably not going to make great art. Great, don't make good art then. Make bad art. Just still do it anyway. If it's something that it's something you can do for the next 20 minutes with your hands, and you've got beautiful art supplies and a beautiful journal, just do it. Just make bad art. Share that. Or don't share it. Just do it and have fun. I'm preaching to the choir here because I know a lot of you already feel like that, but yeah, don't worry about having all the ideas in the world, and don't wait for your inspiration to strike, because she is on a schedule that is so mystical that if you wait for it, you'll just be missing out on a lot. So just get your hands moving, enjoy yourself. I'll see you again tomorrow from Mermay day 16? Let's say 16. I think it's 15 today. Help, I don't know what day it is. It's 15 today. All right, I'll see you for 16. Goodbye.